A setting of I Was Glad has been performed at coronations right the way back for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. The one we're going to perform for you tonight, this afternoon rather, is by Sir Hubert Parry. And it's the one that's now famously done. As the King or Queen enters Westminster Abbey, they start off with I Was Glad. And this was written in 1902 for the coronation of Edward VII. And you'll notice it's beautifully timed to give time for the King to walk from the back of the Abbey right down to the front before we get into the very beautiful heart of the piece. So Hubert Parry walked it in Westminster Abbey, the time it took, and he got it right almost all the time. Queen Elizabeth was slightly quicker and got there before, so she could do it. Wonderful. But our own King, of course, is a huge fan of Sir Hubert Parry, and you may have seen recently a documentary that he did on Parry for BBC, one of his favourite composers. So this is Sir Hubert Parry's I Was Glad. You can see why that's one of King Charles's favourite pieces. It's got everything in it. So Parry timed it, of course. We missed out a little section of that. You can only perform the middle section, which is called a vivat, if the king or queen is there. So, as they're not, we cut it out. But we also don't have the music to it yet, because they're brand new vivats written for this coronation. So they've not been released yet. So that's another reason why we couldn't do it. The choir, you can imagine, has just enjoyed singing that quite loudly. They're now going to take a little bit of a break as we hear a piano piece. And you will have heard the piano being beautifully played then by my colleague, Dr. John Frederick Hudson. He is joined by concert pianist Cyril Ibrahim here, who are going to perform a little piece that I wrote for them. It's piano 4 hands. Have a think about that. And it's a tiny little piece I wrote about this part of Scotland, which they premiered this summer in Kent. And we thought, as we're all coming back up here, wouldn't it be lovely to hear it here in the place that inspired it? And it's a tiny little piece called The Fading Banks of the Deep. hope you could hear the fading of the banks of the Dee and the birds and everything all in there. And you can go and see it for yourself, just outside of here. So thank you very much indeed for that. We now move on to another arrangement that I have done. This time another piece by Sir Hubert Parry. It's his wonderful Dear Lord and Father of Mankind, which has featured as a hymn tune at many, many royal events, including the wedding of our late Queen Elizabeth and the Duke of Edinburgh. So here is my arrangement featuring two soloists, Moira Doherty and Andrew McNeill, Dear Lord and Father of Mankind. Every year we commission new music. So that was new that you've just heard. And there's another new arrangement of a popular hymn. And I asked Dr. John Frederick Hudson if he would arrange How Great Thou Art, another popular hymn that's been performed at many royal occasions. He did his version of The Rite of Spring. It's big, it's epic, and I'd like John to say a few things about it.
When someone asks you to arrange How Great Thou Art, in your mind you go, I gotta start from the very beginning, blank page. And I grew up singing this hymn a lot in church. So how can I bring it to today? And so the first thing, it's in the title. It's not how meh thou art, it's how great thou art. And so in the piano part, you'll hear a lot, so it's four hands, this is Cyril and I, and there's a lot that's gone into it. It's like a full orchestra and these 88 keys. And it's also, you'll hear the hymn too, but there's a few small things that have been put in to just make it more interesting and also quite grand, I think. So hopefully some of the dust from the ceiling might just get shaken a bit. So I hope you enjoy it.
Strap yourselves in. the royal pieces now, and this is perhaps the most famous of them all. It was written by George Frederick Handel, perhaps the greatest English composer that was German. He wrote this piece in 1772 for the coronation of King George II. And it's a setting, of course, the one we know, Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anointed Solomon king. And it's been performed at every single coronation since. And if you watched the coronation recently, in May, you will have seen this happened at the most private moment, where the monarch, King Charles III, is surrounded and he's anointed by the Archbishop of Canterbury. We can't see it because it's so sacred. And the choir sung this at that point. Zadok the Priest by George Frederick Handel, who tried so hard to get a knighthood, but didn't manage. And again, I should point out, this also has a very long opening. That was because they needed time to bring out the adjustments so that the monarch could be private. It took a long time to bring out these kind of barriers to stop people seeing. So there's a long introduction which Handel time. Very easy to play on the piano, I have to say. it wonderfully, but the basses get it twice. So well done, basses. The choir's going to take a short break now, but whilst we're breaking, the entertainment doesn't stop. It carries on. In fact, it gets better. So, I'd like to welcome three very good friends of mine. You all know all of them. Shannon, Stevenson, Raymond, Jappy, of course the Glenfiddich fiddle champion of the world, and the wonderful Dr. Lovie, who's known to everybody. He spent 10 hours yesterday comparing that to the games. I hope he's got some voice now today. Robert and I have done many things together over the years. One of the greatest joys that we had recently was both taking part in the Honours of Scotland service when the King was presented with the Honours of Scotland in St Giles Cathedral. We were both at that. Robert performed, he sang Caledonia at that. It was a wonderful thing to be part of. So, your friend and mine, Robert, Raymond and Shannon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Imagine putting anybody on to do anything after Zadok the priest. That's all I can say. My goodness. Anyway, it's lovely to be back at St Margaret in this wonderful weekend here in this beautiful village, everyone. I don't have an awful lot of voice left after yesterday, but up hands everybody who was at the games. That's what I want to know. Oh, wonderful. That's fantastic. Great stuff. Well, anyway, it's always a joy to join Paul, the choir, and all the wonderful friends. And Brian said at the beginning, you're not sure who's going to pop out behind the curtains. Well, it was just us three, but you've no idea who else is lurking behind the curtains here today for the performance, everyone. We're going to start with some fine fiddle music, everyone. We're going to start with three wonderful pieces. The first one, well, they're all by James Scott Skinner, that great northeast fiddler, and of course not only was a great fiddler, a great composer, he was also dance master for the royal family at Balmoral Castle for many years. So we're going to start with one of his best and finest of marches, called Balmoral Castle, which is tremendous. That we're going to follow that by one of the best strathspeys. It should get your feet tapping. There's no room to do a strathspey here, but if there was, you would certainly want to dance it. It's called The Laird of Drumblea, and that'll be followed by the real Mrs. Forbes Leith of Fyvie Castle. Shannon and Raymond, over to you.
and it's my great pleasure to introduce Shannon Stevenson to you. Shannon's going to play you a lovely piece of music, a lovely slow air, something to reflect on on a Sunday afternoon called Her Olive's Farewell. And we're very lucky at the University of Aberdeen, where both Shannon and I studied, to have the original manuscript of Her Olive's Farewell in the library. So Shannon Stevenson, one of our distinguished graduates from the University of Aberdeen, studied community music and fiddle with me. So despite the fact that I was her teacher, she graduated with a first class degree. So please give her a warm welcome.
a great piece of music, everyone. So, yesterday at the games, it's funny, I love the Highland dancing, because the Highland dancers are always so elegant. But Jean Robertson, who was a champion dancer in our day, she was one of the officials yesterday, said that ladies, believe this or not, ladies were still not allowed to dance in Braemar until 1976. It was still all boys that was dancing at Braemar Gathering right up until 1976 in the Open Championships. Because of course, in days gone by, it was the gentleman that did the Highland dancing, the great Highland dancing. So if you can picture this little poem, which I've had the joy of reciting to His Majesty, but as Prince of Wales, I've never had the joy of reciting to it as King. But one day I hope to, you'll understand why in a minute. But this is a lovely poem. Take us back 150 years to maybe a great clan gathering when the dancers were having a wee dram at the end of the day and the stories were getting better by the dram, I can assure you. It's called McAllister Danced Before the King. Clansmen, the peats are burning bright. Sit round them in a ring, and I will tell of the great night that I danced before the King. For as a dancer in my youth, so great was my renown that the King himself invited me to come to London town. So with brand new presentation kilt and ornaments I wore, and with my skiing due, I rapped upon the palace door. And then I heard a lord or duke come running down the stair, and to the keyhole put his lips, demanding who was there. Open the door, I sternly cried, as quickly as you can. Is this the way that you receive a Highland gentleman? Well, the King was sitting on the throne when down the steps he came, and immediately the waiting lord pronounced my magic name. And all the ladies of the court, with pearls and jewels bedecked, all blushed as I bowed to them with great respect. Then slowly at first, with hands on hips, I danced with ease and grace, then threw my hands above my head, much faster grew my pace. At last no human eye could see my steps, so light and quick, and from the floor great clouds of dust came rising fast and thick. Well, the King was greatly moved, and shook my hand in friendship true. Alas, he says, though but a king, I cannot dance like you. And then the gracious Queen herself came shyly over to me, and pinned a medal on my breast for all the world to see. But her whisper I shall ne'er forget, nor how her eyes grew dim. Oh, where were you, McAllister, the day I married him? A great favourite of the late Queen Mother's, and you can see why. They must have had a great laugh every time they heard it. It was in 1842 that Queen Victoria and Prince Albert came up to this area. They bought Balmoral Estate, they built that new castle, and since then, of course, it's been an area that has had that wonderful affinity with the monarchs, the royal family. It's created this beautiful glen right down its royal B-side, a part of the world which is known and loved the world over. They love it because of the air, they love it because of the scenery, they love it because of the culture, and of course they love it because of the people of this area who they enjoy them, we enjoy each other as neighbours up here, which is absolutely special. And of course, they love the music. But none more so than His Majesty the King, everyone. He not only loves this area as his home, one of his special homes, but they love all parts of Scotland. So I'm going to take you on a little tour. And by way of titles or former titles that His Majesty has had, of course he loves Loch Nagar, we'll do a bit of that. His titles of Great Steward of Scotland, it takes us right over to Rothsay as well, the Western Isles, every bit of Scotland that he loves very dearly. So enjoy this little medley of songs, of words, etc. And think of our wonderful King who came to Braemar yesterday in that new kilt that he wore. Did you see that wonderful new tartan? King Charles III tartan, which is lovely. Again, his love of Scotland. my heart is not here, my heart's in the heights, chasing the deer, chasing the wild deer, and following the road. My heart's in the heights, wherever I go. Farewell to the highlands, farewell to the north, the birthplace of valor and the country of love. And wherever I wander, and wherever I roam, the hills and the highlands forever I belong. Away to the westward I'm longing to be, where the beauties of heaven unfold by the sea, where the sweet purple heather blooms fragrant and free, on a hilltop high above the dark island. Oh, my childhood I'm dreaming of, as the steamer reads on and passes tiring, soon I'll capture the magic that lingers for me, when I'm back once more upon the dark island, when I'm back once more upon the dark island. Westering home and a song in the air, light to the island, it's goodbye to care. Laughter, love, and a welcoming there. I have my heart, my own one. Tell me, oh lands of the Orient Bay, speak all the riches and joys of cafe. Hey, but it's grand to be walking away and find yourself near a deep island, and it's westering home and a song in the air, light to the island, it's goodbye to care. Laughter, love, and a welcoming there. I have my heart, my own one. I have my heart, my own one. Away, ye gay landscapes, ye gardens of roses, in you let the minions of luxury rove. Restore me the rocks where the snowflake reposes, if still they are sacred to freedom and love. Brave Caledonia, dear are thy mountains, round their white summits though elements war, though cataracts roar through smooth flowing fountains. I sigh for the valleys of dark Loch Nagar. Ah, there my young footsteps in infancy wandered. My cap was my bonnet, my cloak was my plaid. O chieftains departed, my memory lingered, as daily I strode through those pine-covered glade. I sought not my home till the day's dying glory gave peace to the rays of the bright polar star. My fancy was cheered by the bold martial story as told by the sons of dark Loch Nagar. Years have rolled on, Loch Nagar, since I left you, and years must elapse ere I see you again. Though nature of verdure and flowers have bereft you, yet still you are dearer than Albion's plain. England, thy beauties are tame and domestic, to one who has roved on the mountains afar, and oh for the crags that are wild and majestic, the steep, frowning glories of dark Loch Nagar. covered bed, haben sweet Rotse Bay. It's a bonny bay at morn, I'm bonnier at the noon. I'm at bonniest when the sun drops and red comes out the moon. As the mist peeks out the comrades, and Arn's peaks are grey, but great black hills like sleeping kings sit grand round Rothsay Bay. But great black hills like sleeping kings sit grand round Rothsay Bay. Paul. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's awesome. Thank you. That's quite enough. Now, we did a similar concert in Aberdeen earlier, and I had a little chat with Paul, because this has been such a fantastic year every year's amazing with Paul, I can assure you, everyone. He's such an amazing guy, but we're very fortunate that part of Paul's life is spent in the city of Aberdeen and this lovely area that we live in up here. But this year's been special because there's been so many special royal occasions, of course, and at each of them along the way, everyone, Paul's been asked to compose something, take part in something, and which is amazingly special. It's because he is fantastically special. So Paul, how's this year been? I mean, it must be so special when you get these phone calls about composing a piece of music, particularly for the coronation and the honours of Scotland, etc. Tell us a little bit about some of those moments.
Thank you, Rob. It's been a busy year, very busy, and it started last Christmas. So I was phone called last Christmas. The King asked me if I would write for the coronation. Of course, I nearly fell off my chair, you can imagine. And what was special about it, not just that I was asked to do it, but that I was asked to write the very first piece in the service. And as a Welshman, I'm a proud Welshman, it would be set in the Welsh language. For the first time ever at a coronation, the Welsh language was heard as the very first thing at the ceremony. The King wanted it to show a passing from him being Prince of Wales into King, and so having that was very special to him. And that I got to choose the soloist, Sir Bryn Terfel, the greatest opera singer there's ever been. He sang it, and if you heard it, you could have heard it here from Westminster. He'd just come from the Met, where he was doing Wotan, and flew in and sang my piece. And then on top of that, they were having trouble, the King, particularly at the point of the crowning, there's always a fanfare, and the King wanted this Strauss fanfare, but they couldn't get the instruments in to Westminster Abbey. And so I got a phone call with a couple of weeks to spare to say, would I rearrange the whole thing for 9 instruments? This is 28 instruments down to 9. And I did that in a couple of days and sent it off. So when you see, and I just knew, if I don't get this right, it's going to be bad forever, because every time they show a picture of the King being crowned, it'll be my terrible fanfare. So I worked so hard on it, and so every time you see that crown and you hear that fanfare, I did that.
So then we got to work together on the honours of Scotland music, because when I took a call from the King about it, he loves music so much, and he's so passionate and fond of music. and he knew by way of his coronation at Westminster Abbey that he loved the music, and he wanted something similar, but in a Scottish vein, for his Honours of Scotland service of Thanksgiving in St Giles. So Paul and I were asked down to see His Majesty to make some suggestions, etc. And he wanted some new pieces, etc. So I said to Paul, I said, you know, I think it would be great. We chatted through what the programme might look like and the suggestions to the king. And we came to the end, and I said it would be great to have a real Scottish fanfare just at the end of the honours. So I said to Paul, it would be good and things. And Paul says, well, I can't suggest that to His Majesty. I said, no, but I can. So when we got down there, and we came right through the suggestions, the programme, etc., and I suggested to His Majesty that Paul might compose a piece for the fanfare at the Honours of Scotland. And I hope you've listened to it, but if you can find it still online. But Paul wrote this amazing piece called
The Call of Lochnagar.
The Call of Lochnagar. And it was so Scottish, but so regal and elegant for that day. So again, you can say, that was me again, Paul. So absolutely fantastic. So anyway, everyone, I just wanted to have a chat, because it's been a special year in so many ways. And this gentleman here has had such a lovely part of it. Paul, thank you so much to have a chat.
Well, thank you, Robert. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you to Brian and all the team here at St Margaret's for always putting on a great show for us, always looking after us so brilliantly. We had a fantastic lunch through there, 5-star. Always looked after, always made you feel comfortable here. Please do come and check out, if it's your first time to a concert here, check out the concerts. There's a wonderful literary festival coming up. There's a festival of folk music coming up. Most of those are already sold out, but if you can get a ticket, do support this brilliant venue, which is rapidly becoming one of the places to be anywhere in the world for music, folk, and poetry and literature. So do come along and support it. I'm saying that's my patron hat on. Right, so we'd like to end our little concert by bringing all of the performers together in this lovely little arrangement of Auld Lang Syne. And you can, at some point, join in. What's that man there?
Should all acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should all acquaintance be forgot for Auld Lang Syne, for Auld Lang Syne, my Joe, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll tap a couple kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne, and surely you'll be your once too, and surely I'll be mine. But